Discover the incredible moment my father refused to walk me down the aisle. An unexpected family secret. Emma stood in front of the mirror, tracing the delicate lace of her wedding gown, her heart a jumble of excitement and dread. The vibrant bouquet of fresh lilies sat on the table, a fresh reminder that her wedding day would soon arrive, yet the shadow looming from her father, Joe, threatened to eclipse even the most picturesque of moments. "You are my little girl, Em," he always said, but she wasn't the little girl he once knew. Now, she was a woman who had dedicated her life to teaching and chasing her own dreams, and that dream was about to clash head-on with the man who had shaped her values. Despite the joy shared with her fiancé, the tension with her father crackled like a live wire. He was steadfast and rigid, believing firmly that traditional family roles still mattered. A marriage isn't about chasing dreams, Emma, he had warned her time and again. It's about being there for your family. Every word twisted like a dagger in her heart. Each moment spent in anticipation of her wedding was engulfed in a swirling vortex of doubt and guilt, gnawing at her. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was betraying both herself and her father, and it stung worse than she had imagined. As she sorted through the details of the ceremony, seating charts, flower arrangements, and vows, her mind replayed conversations fraught with unyielding disagreements. Joe had made it clear he would not accompany her down the aisle, prompted by a belief that women like her should merely support their husbands and children rather than carving their own paths. Yet, deep inside, Emma's anguish grew. She wanted so desperately to be proud of her independence while also yearning for his approval, wrestling with the impossible choice between tradition and self. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The morning of her wedding dawned bright, but in their small Texas home, tension hung heavy in the air. Emma confronted her father over breakfast, his hands wrapped tightly around his coffee mug as he sipped it slowly, refusing to meet her gaze. "Why won't you support me?" The question slipped through her trembling lips, a desperate plea shrouded in anger and sadness. What followed was a tense standoff, an eruption of sorrow-laden accusations that revealed years of misunderstanding. Voices echoed. "You are ashamed of our family values, Emma," he thundered, his words slicing through her defenses, leaving her feeling exposed and vulnerable. In that moment, as they stood there trading regrets like heavy stones, an unexpected revelation exploded from the depths of their exchange, a story from his past that left her breathless. Emma learned of her father's sacrifices, the struggles he faced which had molded his beliefs, truths she had never been privy to before. As she pieced together this new layer of understanding, a flicker of hope ignited within her, battling against the doubt clouding her heart. But would this newfound insight heal the rift, or deepen it? Time was running out as moments ticked away to her wedding, and uncertainty flowed through her veins. As she took one last glance at her wedding gown in the mirror, Emma faced a gut-wrenching realization. The complexity of their relationship isn't easily solved or wrapped in a bow. Would she walk down that aisle tethered to her dreams while leaving her father's love behind? With unanswered questions swirling around her mind, she steeled herself for the moments ahead, bracing for the confrontation that might just shatter or solidify everything they believed about each other. The minutes stretched unbearably as Emma navigated through the final preparations, each tick of the clock echoing in her ears like a war drum. As she slipped into her elegant gown, she found herself wrestling with her father's words swirling in her mind like a storm, intent on unsettling her resolve. The conversations they had shared, filled with years of unvoiced discontent and blind adherence to old paradigms, resonated deeply with her, creating a chasm that felt impossible to bridge. She stepped out onto the porch for a breath of fresh air, the warmth of the Texas sun enveloping her, yet she felt strangely cold inside. Each passerby paid no heed to the swirling conflict within her, their smiles highlighting the joy that seemed so distant from her heart. In that moment, she recognized the stark divide between her outer facade and inner turmoil. Would her wedding day simply be a charade if she could not reconcile with her father? Fragments of her dream career raced through her thoughts: how she had just gained a promotion at the school, her vision for educational innovation, her aspiration to mold young minds. But every step upward had been shadowed by her father's disapproval. In his eyes, teaching was noble, yet not a worthy pursuit for someone like her, a woman who should prioritize home over ambition. Each compliment on her achievements felt like a dagger when she thought of the proud smile she had anticipated from him. As she stood on the threshold of the door, ready to confront him once more, a decision hardened in her heart. Today wasn't merely about joining her life to her fiancé's. It was also about confronting her past, her father, and the ideologies that had long dictated her life. She had to take a stand not only for her future but for the woman she had become. Emma stepped back inside, where Joe still sat at the table. The tension was palpable, but this time she wielded her courage like a weapon. "Dad, we need to talk," she began, her voice clearer than before, cutting through the silence. His eyes met hers, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. She continued, "I need you to understand that my dream teaching, pursuing what I love isn't a rejection of you. It's me honoring the values you instilled in me. I want to make a difference, just as you did in your work." A mixture of vulnerability and strength surged inside her as she spoke. Joe sat back, absorbing her words and what they implied. For the first time, he appeared less like the unyielding fortress and more like a man caught in the undertow of shifting tides. Perhaps underneath all the pride and adherence to tradition lay a man who truly wanted the best for his daughter, yet didn't he know how to express it. "I've come to understand your struggles too, Dad," she pressed, "those sacrifices you made to uphold the family dignity. I'm not ashamed of them. I want to be proud of what we are, together, not instead of one another. Can we meet halfway?" What lay between them was not merely a heated exchange, but a bridge of possibility, a connection built on understanding rather than judgment. She waited, heart racing, for his response. As seconds turned to what felt like hours, his expression shifted, marred by conflict, yet glimmering with something else. Would he embrace the new reality she was carving, or would the weight of tradition pull them apart? Emma realized this was not merely a negotiation. It was an opportunity for true understanding. The moment hung precariously in balance. What would he say? Would she emerge from this standoff with both her father's blessing and her resolve intact, or would yesterday's constraints snatch her dreams yet again? As the clock continued its relentless march, Joe leaned forward, his hands trembling slightly upon the table. The silence stretched, a fragile thread threatening to snap under the weight of unspoken words. Emma's heart hammered as she searched his face for any flicker of recognition, any glimmer of acceptance. "I want you to be proud of me, Dad," she urged once more, her voice steadying despite the chaos inside. Slowly, Joe's facade began to crumble. The burden of decades spent in unwavering adherence to tradition seemed to fracture, the weight of his expectations and her aspirations colliding within him. "Proud?" he finally echoed, his brow furrowing deeper as if he were grappling with a foreign concept. I always thought that meant a different path, a more traditional way of living your life." The words felt like a slap, even though she knew he was wrestling with an ideology deeply rooted in his upbringing. "But that path isn't mine," she confessed, her voice now imbued with an urgency that surprised even her. "My love for teaching is my dream, and it doesn't diminish what you did for us. I want to stand next to you, not behind you." Joe looked away, his gaze drifting towards the wall, the memories etched in wood and paint seemingly presenting a case he could not ignore. "You have to understand, I didn't grow up with choices. I built a life through hard work." His voice was laden with regret, a hint of vulnerability surfacing amid his stern tone. "I know, Dad," Emma responded, feeling the tide of her emotions shift. "And I respect your hard work. But I'm not looking for permission. I'm asking for understanding." She searched his face for signs of acknowledgement. It's my turn to forge a path that reflects who I am, even if it differs from what you expect. For a moment, Joe's resolve wavered, the cracks in his armor widening. You think this is easy for me? To see you chasing dreams that seem frivolous? His voice faltered, exposing the fear he harbored that she might stumble, that her pursuits might end in failure rather than fulfillment. I don't see them as frivolous. Teaching is important, just as your work was important. I'm not trying to dishonor you. I want to honor your sacrifices by creating my own legacy. The air thickened with emotion as both father and daughter shared that moment of unfiltered honesty. Emma stood, waiting with bated breath, straddling the line between hope and despair. Was he finally listening? And then it happened. Joe's gaze met hers fully, a swirl of realization dawning in his eyes. I've never considered it that way, he admitted, voice barely above a whisper. That your success could be a reflection of my efforts, not a rejection of them. Emma felt a rush of adrenaline, emboldened by the shift she had sensed. Yes. Together, we can embrace both our dreams, yours and mine. I want you at my wedding, Dad, walking beside me, honored like a father should be, not sidelined by tradition. The intensity in the room hung heavy as Joe took a deep breath, absorbing the moment. Just as hope kindled within her, he slowly leaned back, as if to create distance from the oncoming emotional storm. It's hard to let go, he admitted, a deep frown etched on his face. I'm asking you to try, Emma urged, her own emotional defenses at the ready. They stood on the cusp of an emotional breakthrough or a painful fracture. Would he still cling to traditions that no longer served him, or would he embrace the life she yearned to create? The question hung powerfully between them, the wedding bells outside a distant reminder of the future she desperately craved. Would this be the moment her father chose to step into her world, supporting her ambitions, or would they remain entrenched in opposing ideals? The door to change had been opened, yet its threshold felt treacherous. Emma took a breath, steadying herself for whatever came next. Would today mark a defining moment in their relationship, or would the echoes of the past prove too potent to silence? The silence that followed Joe's admission weighed heavily in the air, casting a palpable tension that seemed to draw Emma deeper into her thoughts. She did not want to maintain the status quo. She craved transformation not only for herself, but for the man who had shaped so much of her life. Maybe we can start with small steps? She suggested softly, breaking the stillness. I'm asking you to be a part of my journey, Dad. We can redefine what family means, not bound by outdated traditions. Joe's response was hesitant, his eyes darting towards the windows that framed their past, a past littered with expectations and norms. Emma could see the conflict brewing within him. He had built his entire life on a foundation of traditional beliefs, but she believed even he had the capability to evolve. Small steps, he murmured, more to himself than to her. Like what? The challenge ignited a new spark of determination in Emma. She desperately wanted to guide him, to help him see that life could be an adventure even if it veered away from the expected path. What if I invite you to my classroom? You could see firsthand what I do, how I impact the kids I teach. A flicker of interest crossed Joe's face, but it was followed by a flash of skepticism. You want me to sit in a room full of children? The same children you consider your future? Yes, she exclaimed, her heart racing with excitement at the possibility. I want you to witness how important teaching is, how much I care about these students. They are my future, our future. And I promise it won't be frivolous, you'll see. For the first time, Joe appeared contemplative rather than defensive. Emma could sense a small chink forming in the armor he had worn for decades. I just don't want to see you disappointed, Em. Teaching can be a hard path. I know, but it's also incredibly rewarding. I've made the personal choice to fight for a future where my passion drives my career. Isn't that worth something? She leaned forward, her eyes steady and earnest. Let us take this together. As she laid her heart bare, a new idea dawned on Emma. Part of being a good teacher was being a lifelong learner, and perhaps this was a lesson meant for Joe too. I could look for ways to help you share your experiences, maybe a guest speaker series at school? I'd love to introduce you as a successful business owner, the man who built the life from nothing." A smile, tentative yet genuine, broke through Joe's stern demeanor. Now that I could consider. The internal fight within him was evident, his brow furrowed as if wrestling with his own fears. But Emma felt momentum shifting slowly, precariously, but moving nonetheless. It was a delicate dance between father and daughter, ideals clashing, yet somehow seeking harmony. As the conversation carried on, Emma sensed the walls Joe had built around his worldview beginning to wobble. Each idea exchanged was like peeling back the layers of their relationship. However, for every step forward, there lingered the reality of the past that could not be ignored entirely. Would this newfound commitment to understand one another be enough to facilitate deeper change? As they sat in that kitchen, still bathed in the fading daylight, a renewed hope flickered between them, an acknowledgement that their journey had only just begun. Just as Emma felt the tide turning in her favor, an urgent text pinged her phone, one from her fiancé. The message read, "Emma, we need to talk. It's important." Her heart lurched at the sudden twist. What could possibly interrupt this fragile moment of progress with her father? Emma glanced up at Joe, uncertainty weaving through her mind. Because perhaps some conversations were meant to challenge progress, and perhaps she was about to face something she hadn't anticipated. How would she handle this? Emma's fingers hovered over her phone, the brief message from her fiancé echoing in her mind like a drumbeat of impending conflict. She struggled to process what the request could entail. Her gaze turned back to Joe, who was now studying her intently, as if sensing the shift in her demeanor. A chasm of uncertainty divided them. The familiar bond they had started to mend teetered on the edge of disruption. "Who is it?" Joe asked, a mixture of concern and curiosity in his tone. "It's Danny. He says we need to talk." I don't know why." Panic clawed at Emma's insides. Was it too much to hope that, after today, she could convince Danny to embrace her journey, just as she was trying to do with Joe? Now, she questioned her resolve. What if this conversation derailed them both? "Maybe it's nothing," Joe said, attempting to soothe her. Yet the doubt in his voice betrayed his own apprehension. "Or maybe it's something," Emma whispered, her mind racing with various scenarios. Would he tell her he couldn't support her dream? Would he disapprove of her evolving relationship with her father? Or worse yet, would he suggest they put the wedding on hold? The idea of all her efforts toward change collapsing into doubt made her feel small. She needed to master this feeling to command her own narrative rather than letting it spiral out of control. Emma inhaled deeply, envisioning the small steps they discussed minutes before. Was she truly ready to confront the discomfort? She paused, her heart pounding as she tried to compose herself. Maybe I should step outside to clear my head. It sounded like a good plan, if not an impulsive one. The conversation with me, Joe interjected, but she was already moving. She made her way out onto the porch. The crisp evening air cut through her anxiety, grounding her in the moment. The darkening sky mirrored her turbulent thoughts, and for a fleeting moment, she thought of how far she had come already. Yet even the cool breeze felt tainted with uncertainty. She leaned against the railing, trying to compose an action plan. Emma urgently considered the conversation looming with Danny. Perhaps she could use it as a catalyst for her growth, much as she did with Joe. If she asserted her ambitions and desires with unwavering confidence, perhaps she could demonstrate the very transformation she had been envisioning in her relationships. But with that realization came the weight of her reality. Would Danny understand? Would he truly accept her passion for teaching and her uncertain path? Internal conflict raged as she contemplated her life choices and the image of the family she had once envisioned. Growing increasingly desperate to establish her identity, she finally allowed the tension to rise to her core. Could she embrace this moment as an opportunity to redefine her relationship with her fiancé as she was attempting to with her father? In the moment of decision, she heard the creak of the door behind her. Startled, she turned to see Joe, hesitating on the threshold, battling his instinct to either retreat or support. "I hold no expectations," Joe spoke slowly, the sincerity in his voice urging her to face both conversations head-on. "I just want you to be happy." The simplicity of that statement anchored her, but now she stood at the precipice of fear regarding both her intended future with Danny and the unexpected shifts with her father. With purposeful clarity, Emma swiped a hand across her phone, opening the text thread with Danny. She started typing, harnessing the raw emotion she felt, allowing her voice as a teacher, daughter, and partner to flourish. It was a pivotal moment where fear met determination, triggering new aspirations tied to her relationships. As she pressed send, a tense resolve filled the air, promising a depth of new experiences ahead. But before she could fully commit to her statement, her phone vibrated with a response from Danny. "This isn't going to be easy." Emma's heart sank. The confrontation she had braced herself for now seemingly stretched beyond her control. But deep down, she understood one undeniable truth. Only brave actions could dictate her journey, and perhaps she was indeed on the cusp of a greater transformation that involved not only herself, but everyone she held dear. How would she now navigate the inevitable discomfort ahead? Emma felt a rush of anxiety, with Danny's response reverberating in her mind. "This isn't going to be easy." How could it possibly align with the clarity she sought? Determination clashed with dread as she took a moment to stare at her phone, her thumb poised over the screen, hovering just above the keyboard, torn between engagement and retreat. The cool evening air was no longer grounding, it was chilling. Glancing at Joe, still standing in the doorway, Emma recognized the concern etched on his face. She had stepped out for clarity, yet now she stood entrenched in a mental fog. It was going to take more than just the right words to face Danny. It required shedding layers of fear that had always clouded her communication. A memory flickered at the edge of her consciousness, her father sitting across the dinner table, giving her that look whenever she dared broach the subject of her dreams. Was she any different now? Why did she feel as if a decree from Danny could snap her quiet resurgence back to the inertia of the past? Is it bad? Joe stepped out onto the porch, crossing the distance between them, his eyes searching hers. The message. She shook her head, swallowing hard. "No. Not bad, but it feels heavy." "Weight you don't have to carry alone," Joe said, his voice steady as he maintained eye contact. "What do you feel you need to say?" Emma took a breath, pushing away the torrent of emotions. "I need to tell him I'm not the same person anymore. That I want more than the life we planned together." The conviction surged unexpectedly, igniting a flame of confidence within her. It was here, on the edge of vulnerability, where she could practice what she had learned from their earlier conversations about growth, the importance of honesty, even when uncomfortable. She turned her attention back to the phone, drafting a message. "Danny, I understand this may not be easy for either of us, but I need you to support me in my journey. My ambition isn't about leaving you behind. It's about creating something different for both of us," she wrote, her heart racing with each tap of the keys. But just as she finished, her pulse quickened. Could she push past worry about his reaction? Could she stand firm in her truth? This was about her evolution, not a rejection of him still. The specter of doubt loomed large, threatening to erode her hard-won confidence. "Do you think he'll fight for the old plans?" Joe's voice broke through her thoughts, and she looked up. "Maybe." The word tasted bitter on her tongue. "I need to hope that love is more flexible than that." "Then let it be." His encouragement pushed her forward, but Emma realized this was not just about Danny or their future. It was an assertion of her identity, a declaration that she would no longer fit herself into someone else's narrative. She pressed the send button. With a rush of adrenaline tinged with fear, she took a deep breath. "It's done," she said, keeping her gaze focused on Joe, grounding herself in his presence. But the highs of her action met cold reality swiftly. Her phone chimed again with a new response. "If you want to shake things up, then I need to see you." The message settled like a heavy stone in her stomach. Visceral anxiety coiled within her, accompanied by an unnerving thrill. This was a direct confrontation, an invitation to expose not just her ambitions, but her core beliefs. What would she say? Would she fall back into the old habits, wrestling with a realization that threatened to disrupt everything? "I have to." Emma turned to Joe, her decision crystallizing in the moment. "I need to meet him. Now." His eyes widened with a blend of surprise and concern, yet somewhere behind them was a flicker of admiration.
All right.
Just remember what you're fighting for.
You.
She spoke the word with certainty before stepping back toward the house, ready to face the uncomfortable reality of her choices. As she crossed the threshold, Emma recognized a profound truth. Confrontation wasn't merely a challenge, it was an opportunity for profound change. But lurking beneath her newfound resolve was a chilling question. What truths did Danny hold that could redefine everything she thought secure? The answer awaited her, just beyond the door, and everything hinged on the impending revelation. The sun had dipped below the horizon by the time Emma arrived at the cafe where she and Danny had agreed to meet. The dim glow of the lights within cast a warm shimmer on the pavement outside, but there was nothing warm about the knot twisting in her stomach. A swirl of apprehension and resolve coursed through her veins. Yes, she had hit send on her message, but the looming confrontation felt distinctly tangible, pressing down on her. As she entered, the chime of the doorbell echoed her own jittery anticipation. The scent of brewed coffee was heavy in the air, mingling with sweet pastries, an odd juxtaposition to the tension coiling within her. Spotting Danny seated in a corner booth, she paused for a moment, allowing the reality of the situation to wash over her. This wouldn't just be another conversation. This was the confrontation that could either shatter her dreams or push her closer to them. Danny looked up, his expression a portrait of concern and curiosity. He motioned for her to join him, and she moved forward, feeling the weight of every step as she approached the table. "Hey," he said, his voice neutral yet strained.
Hi.
Emma sat down, drawing a deep breath as she met his gaze. It was easy to see the remnants of the person he once thought she would be, and a flicker of guilt sparked within her. "Thanks for meeting me." His eyes searched hers, tension radiating between them like a taut string on the verge of snapping. "I got your message. I hope you understand where I'm coming from," she began, trying to find her footing as she spoke. "My journey isn't about abandoning you, or our plans. It's about discovering who I need to be." There it was, the direct challenge of her truth laid bare. She had navigated the conversation around it in her mind 100 times, but unspoken words often carry an invisible weight. She had to stand firm now. "I don't recognize this, Emma," he said, his brow furrowing. "The one who is suddenly ready to throw everything we've built into chaos." His words stung, and shame washed over her momentarily. "It's not chaos, Danny. It's growth. I've grown. Growth should involve both of us," he insisted, frustration creeping into his tone. "We had plans. What changed?" Emma's chest tightened, the familiar ghosts of doubt whispering in her ear. What if she couldn't explain? What if this wasn't enough? "I've changed. I want to help others, to create something meaningful that extends beyond just us. You've always supported my ambitions, but I think I've been too afraid to pursue them." Silence lingered, thick and uncomfortable. She felt each heartbeat reverberate against the quiet walls of their shared world, their life plans, everything they had once dreamed together. "It sounds like you're saying you want to break away from our life," he said at last, his eyes piercing through her veil of determination. "No," she interjected, panic creeping in. "Not break away. Evolve. I still want us, Danny, but I can't do it at the expense of my potential." A flicker of understanding crossed his face, and for a moment, she could see the walls he had built around himself start to crack. It was terrifying, vulnerable, and exhilarating, revealing a path neither of them could have anticipated. "Then show me," he said softly, his voice shifting from accusatory to imploring. "Don't just tell me what you need, let me see it for myself. Let us build something new together." Emma's breath caught in her throat. It was an invitation, yet it threatened to pull her back to the familiar comforts she had fought so hard to redefine. Would she be compromising her newfound clarity for the sake of ease? Was this what she truly wanted? As the weight of his words settled in her chest, she realized the magnitude of her choice. This was not just about ambitions or relationships. It was about standing on the precipice of her identity and deciding if she would leap or retreat. "Let me think about it," she said, uncertainty quaking her resolve. As she felt the pull of old habits tugging at her heart, Emma could feel the path diverging before her, each direction heavy with consequence. What would she choose, and at what cost? The moment of truth was now, yet clarity felt as distant as ever. As she struggled with her thoughts, a new message buzzed on her phone. This time, from Joe. Everything you aspire to achieve is within your grasp. Don't falter now. With that, another layer of her determination peeled away. How much more was she willing to risk to uncover her true self? The answer waited, woven into the difficult decisions lying ahead. Emma sat still after her conversation with Danny, the cafe's ambient noise cascading around her like a distant wave echoing into silence. Her mind was a tumultuous sea of thoughts battling against the calm facade she tried to maintain. The scent of coffee now felt overwhelming, and she wished she could escape into its soothing embrace, but escape was not an option. What had she really wanted to achieve with that meeting? It was clear now that the mere act of communication had layered her emotions, revealing insecurities she thought were buried beneath her growing ambition. The warm glow of the cafe walls contrasted sharply with the chill threading through her spine, surfacing shadows of doubt. She reflected on Danny's words. "Show me." Such a simple request weighed heavily on her, begging the question of how exactly she could manifest this transformation he so desperately needed to witness. Could she embody the evolved version of herself she envisioned? Or would the remnants of the past overpower her resolve? Closing her eyes momentarily, Emma took a breath, forced herself to center. If she couldn't understand and clarify her own potential, how could she communicate it to Danny? Her initial mirage of clarity felt further away than ever, blending into her rising anxiety. As she left the cafe, the world outside thrummed with energy. Passers-by were wrapped up in their own lives, unaware of the conflict swirling within her. Every footstep guided her home, yet part of her journey awaited the next destination, the place where she had to confront a deeper truth within herself. Joe's message echoed in her ears, offering a lifeline. It implied she was capable of delivering on her aspirations, but the trust being placed upon her felt daunting. Back in her apartment, Emma flopped down on the sofa, arms sprawled wide, staring at the ceiling. She thought about the projects she had shelved. The community outreach program she had envisioned, the personal blog, and the volunteering opportunities she always wanted to consider. Could she tackle them once more with the intent to genuinely reconnect with her identity? Or was her past with Danny casting shadows too dark to navigate? The phone buzzed again, breaking her trance. It was a reminder about a seminar hosted by a local nonprofit organization, an opportunity to step into that world she had yearned to be part of. She sat up quickly, heart racing at the idea. Attending the seminar could be a way to train herself to articulate her aspirations. It had the potential to bolster her resolve, shaping her understanding of what she truly wanted and how to advocate for it. But the seminar was happening at the same time as a planned outing with Danny for his favorite band. Would choosing to go network with strangers mean sacrificing their relationship? Anxiety surged through her. The ghosts of guilt played with her mind. What if Danny needed her then? What if he was willing to really see the new Emma? But how could she grow without the seeds of ambition planted in the right soil? She wrestled with the thought until clarity broke through the recognition that investing in herself would not mean abandoning Danny, but rather preparing to forge something stronger than before. Rising from the sofa, Emma decided she would go to the seminar. A burgeoning sense of empowerment ignited within her, invigorating her spirit as she picked up her laptop to register. She felt herself come alive, a visceral reaction, as though she was shedding skin and discovering strength hidden underneath. The moment of clarity rolled in like a tide beneath her, but another voice echoed around her mind. Was this the right time to reveal it all to Danny? Emma's phone buzzed once more, a message from Joe. Change is progress. Embrace it today. She remained motionless, choices coiling around her like tendrils of a vine. How far would she push herself, and more importantly, how would she navigate her shifting relationship with Danny amidst this personal evolution? As uncertainty settled, the thrilling weight of her decision lingered in the air. Emma realized the real battle was yet to come, a challenge black with ambiguity and bright with promise, all waiting just around the corner. What would happen when she stepped into the light of that seminar? The answer stood at the intersection of self-discovery and transformation, and she was terrified to take that step forward. What awaited her on the other side? Emma stood in front of her closet, the morning sun filtering through the slightly drawn curtains, illuminating the chaos within. She had gathered a mix of outfits from tailored blazers to flowy dresses, each piece signifying a version of her she was still trying to pinpoint. It felt like preparing for a performance rather than attending a seminar. Her palms grew clammy as anticipation twisted in her gut. This seminar was an opportunity to rediscover her voice, yet a thrum of vulnerability hovered at the edges of excitement. What if she couldn't articulate her thoughts? What if the other attendees saw through her polished exterior and recognized her uncertainty? Emma shook her head, steeling herself. She couldn't afford to dwell on those fears. Instead, she focused on the thrill of stepping into a room filled with like-minded individuals who shared her passion for community engagement and self-improvement. The prospect of connecting with others who understood her aspirations felt invigorating, almost addictive. Once dressed, she glanced in the mirror, smoothing down her blazer. There it was, the trace of the confident woman she wished to embody. But as she stepped out the door, the familiar weight of doubt pulled at her. Would those around her sense that she was still figuring it all out? The venue buzzed like a live wire, full of laughter and warm conversations that danced in the air. Small clusters of people greeted each other, sharing smiles and friendly banter. Emma lingered at the entrance, surveying the room. Her heart raced. She desperately wished for an anchor, someone to grasp hold of as she waded into the ocean of unfamiliar faces. Then she spotted a woman in a brightly colored scarf, animatedly discussing project ideas with a group nearby. Something about her openness and enthusiasm drew Emma in. Tentatively, she stepped forward, reminding herself to breathe. "Hi." Emma introduced herself, extending her hand. The woman turned, her smile warm and inviting. "I'm Emma. I'm really interested in getting involved in community work and advocacy." The woman, whose name was Tara, welcomed her enthusiastically, bridging the gap and introducing Emma to the group. The conversation flowed. They shared their stories, their aspirations, and their challenges. Emma felt her nerves begin to dissipate as genuine laughter erupted among them. As ideas began to swirl around the possibilities of collaborations and projects. Emma realized she had insights to add. Her experiences, her passions, they mattered. She could communicate them with clarity. The words flowed naturally. Each exchange stoked a fire within her, reinforcing her belief that she belonged in this space. Then, a moment arrived that caught her off guard. Tara asked, "What drives you, Emma? What's the spark behind your passion for community?" Emma hesitated, the question resonating far more deeply than she expected. She took a breath, willing herself to be honest. "Honestly, I've been struggling to embrace my own potential while supporting someone else's dreams. I'm on a journey of transforming myself, and I'm learning that it's okay to pursue what I want to." The room fell quiet for a moment, the gravity of her words hanging in the air. Emma felt exposed, but relief washed over her. Sharing that piece of herself forged a connection deeper than she could have anticipated. Encouragement came from the group, a collective understanding that seemed to acknowledge her fear. Facing that vulnerability head-on exposed hidden competencies within Emma, her ability to inspire, to engage, and to communicate value in her own narrative. As the seminar unfolded, Emma found her footing, cycling between listening and contributing. Each new conversation smashed through another layer of self-doubt. She realized that her ambition could coexist with her relationship with Danny. She could carve out her path without devaluing the connection they shared. By the end of the day, Emma felt lighter, buoyed by newfound clarity. She left the seminar with a list of potential projects and the strength to advocate for herself. Yet as she walked down the street, a question nagged at her. Would she share her experience from the seminar with Danny? Or would revealing her growth cause more turbulence before they could find peace together? Another decision loomed ahead, brimming with a mix of anticipation and dread. The true challenge waited just beyond the horizon, a stark voice coiling in her mind. How would he react to the empowered woman she was becoming? Would he embrace her evolution with open arms, or would it drive a wedge between them? Emma realized the need for a conversation was imminent, and her heart raced at the potential crossroads it could lead to. In the wake of Emma's transformative seminar experience, she stood at a crossroads, her heart pounding with the weight of anticipation. Each step toward home felt both exhilarating and heavy as she mulled over how to express her growth to Danny. After immersing herself in conversations that inspired her and reignited her passion for teaching and community work, she understood a vital truth. She was no longer the woman who felt she needed to sacrifice her ambitions. She had stepped into a version of herself that could be bold without apology. As she entered her apartment, she found Danny sprawled on the couch, his laptop open, yet his focus distant. It was now or never. Time to communicate the depth of her transformation and the essence of her new purpose. She took a deep breath, steeling herself. This wouldn't be easy, but it also didn't need to be a confrontation. Instead, it could be a bold declaration of who she had become. Danny, she began, her voice steady, but her heart racing. I went to that seminar today, and I learned something crucial. It's about my journey, my passion for teaching, and how I want to impact students. I need to share this with you. His gaze flickered up, a mixture of curiosity and concern reflected in his expression. I'm glad you got something out of it, but you've been distant. What does this change mean for us? Emma felt a rush of determination build within her. It means I'm ready to embrace my ambitions fully and integrate them into our life together. I don't want to diminish what you've proposed for us. I want to amplify it. We can both forge a future that brings us fulfillment. She watched as the words landed with weight. The silence felt heavy. It was vulnerable territory. Would he see the strength in her security or feel threatened by her ambitions? I don't want you to feel like you're leaving me behind, he said slowly, testing the waters of her resolve. I'm not leaving you behind, Danny, she challenged gently, allowing the conviction of her transformation to radiate through her words. But I need you to understand that embracing my ambition doesn't mean rejecting ours. It means expanding what we can build together. Let us redefine our dreams, not as divergent paths, but as complementary journeys. A glimmer of understanding flickered behind his eyes, but he measured his response. And if I can't be part of that vision, we'll figure it out, Emma reassured, firm in her own narrative. I want to include you in this process. I want us to support each other's growth without sacrificing what makes us who we are. Danny shifted slightly, an internal battle playing out across his features. Would he champion her dreams, or would he find solace in their previous plan? Emma felt her pulse quicken again, but this time with gratitude for her newfound assertiveness. You've changed so much, he said at last, shaking his head in disbelief. I'm not sure I know how to keep up. Another surge of bravery filled Emma. Just as you've supported my ambitions in the past, I want you to know that I recognize you might have to evolve too. I want to grow together, exploring the paths that fulfill us individually and as a team. Finally, she posed the essential question. Are you willing to explore this new landscape with me? Time seemed suspended as they locked eyes, emotions swirling in the air between them. A recognition formed, the kind sparked by vulnerability, illuminating the potential of their relationship if they both stepped into a space of mutual support. I'll try, Danny finally replied, a tentative smile breaking through, hinting at hope. Let us find ways to support who we want to be, together. At that moment, Emma grasped the significance of her ordeal. She had not only achieved clarity in her own ambitions, but also demonstrated the value of collaboration in relationships. With her confidence firmly rooted and her goals aligned with who she was, she had broken free from lingering doubts and embraced the complexity of personal growth alongside meaningful connections. As they sat together, a new chapter unfolded for both of them, a chapter filled with possibilities rather than limitations, with shared dreams rather than individual sacrifices. Emma knew that she had established herself not merely as a teacher but as a partner who could endeavor to inspire both herself and Danny, demonstrating that love was, above all, an adventure in mutual growth. This was her moment of triumph. She had conquered old narratives, proving that she had the capacity not just to fulfill her dreams, but to define a future on her own terms, allowing her voice to echo through her relationships seamlessly. And now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and theories about this empowering conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey. Don't wait even one more second to share.